This lesson is over how to solve one-step equation using multiplication and division. Let's look at our number routine of fix the mistake. So this is wrong. X minus -7 equals to -5. According to this, they said that the variable x has to be 2. That's wrong. Well, let's see why. So again, how do you solve one-step equation? So we have to first isolate the variable. We need to isolate this variable. In order to isolate the variable, you do the inverse operation. What is the inverse operation of minus -7? That's plus -7 plus -7. This cancels out. So 5 negatives plus 7 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would be x is equal to -12. Hence, this is wrong. As a reminder, you need to check your work. Check your work. Go back to the original column. You substitute the variable x with what you got, -12. Let's substitute this x with -12. What is -12 minus -7? Again, how do we subtract integers? We added the opposite. So you have 12 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're adding 7 positives to 7. All of these 0 pair out. We're left with -5. Check mark. So x equals -2. So in our equation, we have 2x equals -4. So we're solving for x. So to solve for x, we need to isolate x. So let's isolate. So we have 4 negatives. We need to divide them into 2 groups of x. So let's -4 divide it into 2 groups. X will equal -2. To check our work, that x equals -2. To check our work, we need to replace each x with -2, each x with -2, and -4 is equal to -4. Check mark. Some of you may not prefer using algebra tiles. You'd rather solve it algebraically. So, looking at our key, 2x equals -4. We need to isolate x. To do so, you need to do the inverse operation. As a reminder, this means multiply. What is the inverse operation of multiply? It is divide. So divide by 2. Again, you need to balance it, so you must do it on the side. 2 divided by 2 is 1 whole. 4 negatives divided into 2 groups, x -2. Let's check our work. So we're going to check our work. We are going to substitute the x with -2. 2 times -2 is -4. Check mark. All right, let's look at our next algebra tile example. We have -4x equal +8. Again, we need to isolate the x. Isolate, isolate, isolate. But you're going to say, but that isn't x. These algebra tiles are, no, before I do that, no, I should do it now. These algebra tiles are double-sided. It's not shown on this one, but when you work with them, they are double-sided. In order to turn this to x, you have to do the opposite of. So we're going to flip them around. So it's replaced with this. Because we're doing the opposite, we need to do opposite of these. So now what we see is 4x is equal to -8. How many negatives will go into each x? There's 4 x's. There are 8 negatives. We need to divide them into 4 groups. It'll be -2, -2, -2, -2, and -2. So x is equal to negative 2. Let's check our work. If I replace each x with negative 2, will it be equivalent? Check mark. Let's show it now algebraically what we just did. So we have negative 4x equal 8. I need to isolate this variable x. Again, this means multiply. What is the inverse operation of multiply? It's divide. We're dividing by what? Negative 4. So this is 0 pairs. 8 divided by negative 4. 8 positives. You're dividing it into 4 groups. And you do the opposite, negative 2. X equals negative 2. Let's check our work. See the trend. Substitute the x with 2. Negative 4 times negative 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Opposite of a negative is positive. X mark. And negative times negative is positive. Next one. Let's try division now. Half of x. So imagine this is cut in half. Half x equals positive 2. So half of an x is equal to positive. Well, if half of it x is equal to positive 2, the other half is also equals to positive 2. So a full x is equal to 4. So x equals 4. So half of x equals 2. A full x will have to be 4. To check your work, replace half of an x with 2. Okay, so x equals 4, so this all x is equal to 4, and they're equivalent. Let's do it algebraically. This represents half of x equals 2. You can also rewrite it as half of x equals 2. It means the same thing. So what is the, so we need to isolate x. What is the inverse operation of divide 2? Inverse of divide 2 is times 2. So we multiply by 2, multiply it by 2. This cancels out. Before you say, why does it cancel out? Remember, when you multiply a whole number by a fraction, such as this, taking the reciprocal, that's one whole. It cancels out. X equals 4. To check your work, I replace or substitute this x with a 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Check mark. Number 4, a third of x equals negative 4. So 1/3 of x equals, I need to figure out what x, full x is equal to. So this third, second third is equal to negative 4. The last third is equal to negative 4. X equals negative 12. If I replace this full x with full negatives, they are equivalent. Let's do this algebraically. X divided by third equals negative 4. I need to isolate this x because this x is divided to third. I need to do the inverse. I need to isolate x by doing the inverse operation. What's the inverse operation of divide? 3. Multiply by 3. Multiply by 3. Cancels out. Negative 4 times 3 is 12. What's the opposite? Negative 12. To check my work, I replace or substitute this x with negative 12. And negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. X mark. So now, what if you are this time given the equation negative 2x equal 6? So that is how it looks like through model. So here's negative x. Each one of them needs 3 positive, but we're solving for x again. So we do, again, if these were number powers, we have to flip them over. So we flip them over, flip them over, flip them over. Here you're doing the opposite of it. And so x equals -3. Let's show y. Again, this is times. I need to isolate x. What's the inverse operation of times? Divide by -2, divide by -6. This was out. X equals 6 divided by -2 is -3. Check, check. Again, let's check our work. I replace or substitute x with -3. 2 times -3 are 2 groups of -3. One group of -3, a group of -6. Wait. Let me erase this. Oh, yeah. I did not write it out. So it's negative. So 2 times 3 is 6. Opposite of a negative is positive. 6 equals 6. So check mark. Next one. You have x is equal to +2, but has divided into fourths. So each fourth is equal to, what will a full x be? So this fourth is 2. This fourth is 2. This fourth is 2. So a full x, this whole x here will equal 8. Let's do it algebraically. What is, I need to isolate x. What's the inverse operation? Divide 4 times 4 times 4. Guess what? X equals 8. Again, I would like you to check your work. Replace or substitute x with 8. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Check mark. Number 7. Now, I'm not going to use algebra calcs. This is optional. I'm going to see if I can do it mathematically, because when you get to upper level math, you need to try to do this algebraically. So this represents multiply. What is the, I need to isolate this x. What's the inverse operation of multiply? Divide by 4. Divide by 4. X equals, you have 12 negatives. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. You're dividing into 4 groups. How many negatives are in each group? -3. Again, let's check our work. I replace or substitute the x with -3. 4 times 3 is 12. Opposite, -12. Check mark. So number 8. Half of x equal 8. So half of the x is equal 8. What will a full x equal to? So what is the inverse of divide? Multiply. So we're going to multiply by 2. Multiply by 2. Cancels out. X equals 16. Check your work. I substitute the x with 16. What's half of 16? 8. Check. Number 9. And 1/8 x equals -5. So imagine you have an x. Cut it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each 8 has 5 negatives in it. What would a full x equal to? I'm not going to do it. I'd rather do it mathematically. What's the inverse operation of divide 8? Multiply 8. Multiply 8. So x equal -5, -5, -5. That's a lot of negatives. 5 times 8 is 40. Opposite, -40. Let's check our work to see that is correct. I replace or substitute the x with -4. 40. -40 times 1/8. That's -5. Check mark. Number 10. What is, I need to isolate x, the inverse operation of -3. This is fine. Divide by -3. Divide by -3. Cancels out. 12 divided into 3 groups. 4 opposite, -4. Let's check our work. Substitute x with -4. 3 times 4 is 12. Opposite, negative, positive. 12 equals 12. Check mark. And our last one. Yay, that one's the last one. Yay, yay, yay. So what we just did is you need to isolate the variable. In order to do so, you have to do the inverse operation. If it's about multiply, you do divide. If it's divide, you do multiply. Just like we did addition subtraction. The inverse of adding is subtracting, and the inverse of subtracting is adding. And this is how you multiply and divide one-step equations.